Say goodbye to Monday and say hello to Tuesday as we start a Tuesday here of this week here. And that means a Tuesday morning edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now. I'm your host, Mike Asti. I am joined by Mike Vukovcan, and Mic'd Up is presented by Martin Lawn Services. Doug Martin's number there behind Mike V at 412-849-5894. And we are going to kind of pick up where we left off on Monday morning's show with more conversation on Efton Reed deciding to go to LSU and not Pitt, in the aftermath of that, which also can be found, of course, on Pittsburgh Sports Now. And the news of the day, which will be our headline, of course, Justin Champagnie, the Pitt superstar that really emerged last year, also won't be leading this Pitt team either, which also puts the Pitt team in a bit of a flux and uncertainty here moving forward as he ends up signing an agent and is now looking at the National Basketball Association. We touched on this before, but we will get our full thoughts on his prospects at the NBA and now where Pitt goes from here. So, Mike, I guess we will start there. We will start this Tuesday morning show with Justin Champagnie. And last year, he kind of, I don't want to say came out of nowhere because people obviously knew he was good prior to last year, but last year he really emerged. That's really the word. He went from good to great to best player on the team. There was a while where he was ACC Player of the Year type of player. He was in those conversations. He did dissipate towards the end of the season a little bit, as the team did, but he now tries for the NBA, signs an agent though, so can't return to school. The thinking initially, at least for me, was, okay, why not try for the NBA? What's the hurt if you don't get where you want to be? You go back to Pitt with these new rules, but signing an agent, he's now locked into the NBA. What are your thoughts now on Pitt without him, since that might come as a bit of a surprise? Not that he was testing the waters, but that he now is not coming back to Pitt no matter what, and his NBA prospects.
I was kind of surprised in that I thought he would have had more of a evaluation coming up later in June. There's going to be an opportunity for him to work out, play in some G League games, also work out at the NBA Combine,
right?
And that's usually where your barometer is as far as your agent or your people around you, your head coach, tell you, you're getting good vibes.
Or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're real honest there. They're real honest there.
Yeah.
A lot of players have tested those waters. They've heard negative feedback, and they come back to school, especially with the way the rules are now.
Yeah, and then you also, he could also judge with other kids. He's not the only kid in this position.
Right.
And, if you have a handful of kids that decide to stay in the draft, not that they're better than you, but, maybe, they could be viewed as, better prospects or, and
sure,
that could hurt you. So it's no doubt a risky proposition for Champagnie. And he made it clear that he's doing this in order to take care of his family.
Which you can't hate. Yeah.
Right. He said this is opportunity, and I haven't heard yet what his brother Julian, I would imagine, I was out all evening, but his brother and him both decided to enter the draft on the same day. His brother plays for St. John. He was their leading scorer.
Right.
I would be shocked if him and his brother are, twin brothers. They are joined by the hip. So I would be very surprised if his brother also doesn't enter into the NBA. But it's a risky decision. He wants to. His brothers are going to take care of their family, hopefully with this money. And now he has to make it. There's no question that this kid has a work ethic. He has a desire. He's New York tough. The question is that good enough to have a long career in the NBA? Some people pointed out today on Twitter, and it's a little bit of a fair comparison, is that Brad Wanamaker is still playing in the NBA. He got traded. He signed in the offseason with Golden State. He got traded to Charlotte at the NBA trade deadline, and he's hanging around. He signed a couple contracts. He's made money. He's not a great player, but he's a smart player. He's a worker. He's tough from Philadelphia, sure. And he's making NBA money for a handful of years now. So, people are drawing comparisons to them. And for Champagnie, I hope it all works out for him. I think he was a good player for Pitt, and this could be a good um, thing for the Pitt program for Jeff Capel to be able to show recruits, hey, this kid came here as a 3-star kid. We developed him. He listened to us. We had a good system for him, and now he's playing in the NBA. And that's, within 3 years of Jeff Capel being the head coach, he's already going to have a guy, he hopes, in the NBA.
And that's easier said than done. And we actually talked about on yesterday's show that maybe it would be best served for a program like Pitt for Jeff Capel after missing out on Efton Reed and other 5-star recruits over the years, that despite being a great recruiter and having that resume from Duke and throughout his whole career, that maybe having those 3-star kids come to Pitt, get developed, and then get to the next level would be better, and would be get more of those than worry about as much of the 5-star recruit. So that's more of proof in the pudding of developing a kid. That's great. For me, you can't hate on a kid if he needs the money, because that's always the caveat we've always said, that we can evaluate a kid and say what he's going to be at the next level and our thoughts, and so can a scout. But I'm sure I'm sure Jeff Capel probably even said to him, look, I think you would be better served for another year of college, but I'm not going to be putting food on your family's table. So if you need to put food on that table, and this is the way to do it, I think you'll be a second-round pick. You'll make some money, and even if it's league minimum, that's better than most jobs out there. So go ahead and then work on this, and this to get a better contract and actually have a legit career. That could be a conversation. So you can't judge a kid unless you're in his shoes and know the family dynamics. There are some kids like a JJ Redick that didn't have to worry about money. You're looking at Champagnie who does. So that's going to be a decision that's going to be part of it. But I do think he would have been better served another year of college ball in terms of being able to play at a high level in the NBA, just because his size is not going to allow him to be the same guy. I wonder if he knows that. At Pitt, he was a scorer, but also was a rebounder. He could do it all. He was getting compared to Shaq, but he wasn't that same body with those numbers. But at the next level, if you don't have the body, you're not going to be that guy. You're not going to be able to get rebounds. He's going to almost be – I can imagine an NBA team might try to turn him into a spot-up shooter if he's coming off the bench. And I don't know if that's him. So he could be a spark plug, but he's going to need more muscle to be that rebounder. I don't know if he fits on NBA teams for a long career, but hey, if he needs the money and he needs to do this, certainly there's hope, and you can't tell him not to do it.
Yeah, he's really going to need to – Justin Champagnie's desire and grit and compete level is of NBA quality.
Right.
However, there's a lot of those guys in the league. And if he's going to have a long career in the NBA, he's going to need to master something very well. And you pointed it out. His only chance is, I don't care how, maybe he'll prove me wrong, but he is not going to make, he's not going to butter his bread in the NBA by outright rebounding people when he's 6'6". That's just not going to happen.
You would not think so.
No. If Champagnie's going to stick around in the NBA, he is going to need to dramatically improve his outside shooting. He did that last year a little bit, but I don't think it was to the point that he was NBA quality. He was worried about an injury. And the thing for him is, and I'll bring this comparison up because they're the same height, almost the same type of player, is Wanamaker. Wanamaker needed to go over. He played a couple years over in Germany. He played over in Europe for a couple years and got better. And then he came over and he signed with the Boston Celtics. And that's where he kind of got a role for himself. And then he's been able to stick on since then. So even if Champagnie doesn't get drafted, or even if he gets drafted and gets cut, he'll be playing basketball someplace next year, whether it's the G League or whether it's over in Europe.
He'll fall back on Europe at minimum and make money there.
Yeah, and he'll also be able to make money as opposed to not making money, playing for the Pitt Panthers. So he's going to make money, but he's going to need to get better. He's not an NBA surefire prospect right now. I don't think he's even close. His defense needs to get a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
His drive to the hoop, he can't create. He's not very good at creating his own shot. He needs set up. So all that needs to improve. But hey, all the best for him. He was a good guy to cover at Pitt, and hopefully he's able to have a long, prosperous career in the NBA.
Yeah, I think everyone's rooting for him. I think one other knock on him, and this isn't his fault, and maybe this is part of his emergence this past year where he was at one point considered a candidate for ACC Player of the Year, which again dissipated off. But maybe that was because it was a down year for some of those elite teams in the conference, and the competition that he dealt with in terms of there was good players, but in terms of size, this was not a year where he's dealing with Zion Williamson at Duke, who has that NBA body. He didn't really have anyone else that he was having to bang underneath for those rebounds that he's going to be dealing with in the NBA. So it'll be interesting if he can still find a niche outside of just being a shooter, or whether that's working on defense or somehow still getting the boards, or he can become that shooter to fit with an NBA team. I'd imagine he's looking probably playing the G League or Europe next year. I would not figure he's getting legit NBA minutes next year. We'll see. Certainly first round's not happening, maybe second round. So second round's his hope. And if you're not there, then generally you don't come back. But if he can make money anywhere, that seems to certainly be the goal. And his value is at its peak. The risk obviously is still there to come back. He could get hurt next year, and then the value wouldn't be there. So maybe he feels like he has to cash in for his family. Mic'd Up here, presented by Martin Lawn Services. It's a Pitt-heavy show. Pitt's been in the headlines here for Pittsburgh Sports Now, to say the very, very least. And yesterday we talked about a recruit that decided not to go to Pitt. We just talked about a Pitt superstar who decides not to come back and go to the NBA, which means, Mike, what's the state of Pitt for next season and then even beyond? Because you lose Xavier Johnson, you lose Tony, you don't get in the tournament next year. Champagnie's season kind of goes downhill, despite now leaving towards the NBA. They don't make the tournament. They do lose a bunch at the end. There's still promise there. Capel can recruit, but he needs to get to work. Efton Reed doesn't come, and that would have fixed some holes in terms of size underneath as a center. And then Champagnie's not going to be there either to kind of give them that bridge to another season of at least Champagnie being respectable and guiding them to respectability. So what is the state of the program next year? And then I guess also to touch on, of course, the unraveling of the Efton Reed saga, as that has continued to be covered throughout the day on Pittsburgh Sports Now, as we've heard more about that and him not going to Pitt.
Yeah, it was a busy day yesterday. Champagnie, and then late last night, they added a guy, a JUCO guy, one of the top JUCO forwards, Chris Payton. Okay. I honestly, I'm not going to pretend as though I know. I need to talk. I need to talk to more people about what this guy's game is.
They got more shows, so you can tell us.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I think it's too early to be able to evaluate. I know I've gotten at least half a dozen messages saying, boy, Pitt's going to suck next year. It's going to be I just think it's too early. Do I think – I see – I get people's doubts, but we have to wait to see. He could still add up to 3 to 4 more players, even with Chris Payton. I think they got to find out if John Hughley, their 4-star center from last year, is allowed to return to the team, if his suspension is lifted. If it is, that would fill a big hole in the middle, and that would ease things up a little bit. That hasn't been determined yet. He has a court hearing. His court case is on Thursday, so we're going to see what happens there. But I just think it's too early to make any sort of evaluation until he gets a complete roster. He's going to be, I would think, with what happened to him with Efton Reed, Jeff Capel and his staff are going to be as motivated as hell to add talents and do whatever they can. So, he's probably on the phone right now trying to add kids. They're going to do it, but I don't know yet. I think we have to wait until he signs everybody before we actually evaluate the roster.
To be fair, that's accurate for sure, but I'm imagining Pitt fans are going to be freaking out a little bit.
Aren't going to be high though.
Yeah. Well, that's one positive in a way. If you want to try to put lipstick on the pig or have a glass half full, because I guess if Jeff Capel would get the team into close to the tournament or even to the NIT based on the expectations right now, that would be considered a solid coaching job based on what he's dealing with now. Problem will be, despite that being a solid coaching job, Jeff Capel was hired and Jeff Capel's resume screams recruiter. So until there's recruiting success, Pitt fans are always going to wonder. But when you go for 5-star kids, you're going to have the risk of not landing them. So we'll see if that changes. But I think also it is. I think when we were talking on post-game shows and on this channel and after the Pitt season ended, I don't think many thought Champagnie wouldn't be back. Even when he was testing the NBA waters, you figured, okay, you don't get Efton Reed, that's fine. You splice it in with whoever you can find. JUCO transfers to fill in. It's not the end of the world to lose Xavier Johnson and Tony, but you have Champagnie to be there. He'll get you at least 9 or 10 wins in conference. You'll be at least looking at the same season as last year at worst, and then you just swing 1 or 2 of the games that they got upset at the end of the year. Maybe you're actually landing in the NIT or the tournament. But him not being there certainly changes things.
Yeah, and
at least for next year.
And the thing, though,
but it is about more than that.
They're actually going to have an off season for some of these kids, and I know it's the easy thing to do is say they're going to suck. That's obvious. But you also have to anticipate those kids are in the gym already. Kids that weren't able to work last year because of COVID and mixed up. Their recruiting class last year was pretty solid. It was Jeff Capel's best recruiting class. You got a guy like Will Jeffers, who was a 4 to 5-star kid. You got a guy that Noah Collier was close to a 4-star kid that can. It's all about those guys. Can they make the step up? Can they replace the points and minutes for Champagnie? They have talent on the team. That's not a question. Some of the younger talent. The problem is, can they take that next step from being good prospects to good college basketball players? Is that going to happen in year 2, or is that going to happen in year 3? It
might be a year growing pains.
Yeah, and also, I'm sure Jeff Capel, if you ask him, he's going to believe some of these guys with the opportunity, Nike Sabandi, and some of the guys that they've added, that they're going to be able to step right in, play, and he's going to have development out of some of the guys that were freshmen last year, and they're not going to be as bad as people were thinking. So it's all about develop. How can Milan Brown and Jeff Capel and Jason Capel and Tim O'Toole, how could the assistants help with these guys in their development and put them in the best position to succeed? And that, we'll see.
And I think Nike Shabandi is one to key on. He had a really solid end of the season, maybe in the shadow of Champagnie, but that was somebody that got publicity, seemed to really progress. People almost are forgetting about him. And you also have the scenario of and it felt like this a little bit towards the end of the year, Mike, that sometimes it felt like Pitt was relying too much on Champagnie because of how dominant he was in December and January with some of those 20-20 games, 30-20 games, 30-point triple-doubles, etc. Maybe now, him not being there, nobody will get too comfortable with just saying, oh, Champagnie will take it or he'll do this. It will allow others to step up. They'll get more of an opportunity. Nike Shabani he'll be able to emerge. And honestly, if we were talking and doing this show a year ago, we wouldn't have thought Champagnie would have been what he was. So somebody else could emerge. So that's a great point, too. Somebody else could emerge. And it's not to say that anyone in the conference right now is lighting the world on fire in terms of a recruiting class. They also have had some issues, too. So it's definitely in flux overall in the conference and still an opportunity, but it might be growing pains.
And the other thing is, I don't think there's any question that this team is going to have better chemistry than last year's
team. That's part of Tony and Johnson leaving.
You talked about the struggles down the season, toward the end of the season, and a lot of that has to do with the fact of the friction on the team, the dispute on the team amongst teammates, players not wanting to give each other the ball. That's not good. When you're out there 5-on-5 and you have a couple of guys out there that can't stand each other, that's hard to succeed, and that's all going to be eliminated now. So I think you could only improve off of that. It's amazing that they were able to.
Yeah, it's a blessing in disguise in a way.
Yeah, you were able to compete as well as they did last year, considering the circumstances of all dislike among the top players on the team. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that we were a fly on the wall. It was one of those years that is unfortunate to be dealing with COVID because obviously the access is not what it used to be in terms of getting in those locker rooms. And that would have been one hell of a season to cover just on that respect if we all could have got in there. And I'd love to see a documentary on that Pitt team or something. The ACC network could maybe do that because what a wild ride that would be.
One thing I wanted to bring up is the kind of teased on this yesterday, and the detractors of, and I think he's in light of the story I put out there today regarding what really went down with Efton Reed. Right. I think some of the detractors of Jeff Capel kind of backed off of him a little bit and realized how
it wasn't his fault.
How Reed and his family basically, I don't know what word you want to use, but
bamboozled,
screw, whatever you want to say. It was dirty pool what they did to him. And for those who didn't see the story, basically, Efton Reed, I'm 1,000% sure on this. This is not speculation on my part. He committed to Pitt. Him and his family gave Jeff Capel commitment on Friday, and basically the deal was they told him they were going to take the weekend, sign the papers, whatever, get everything in over the weekend, send it to them, and they were going to announce it at the beginning of the week.
Right.
Yesterday.
Right. And that's why you didn't see the initial announcement on Friday. Exactly. It was just a courtesy.
So Jeff Capel left Friday night, Saturday, thinking, all right, I got my 5-star center here. Everything's good, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Sunday night,
your turn.
He sees a tweet that Efton Reed committed to LSU.
Yeah.
And he was completely floored. The whole coaching staff was. I think, I want to read a tweet real quick here from, I don't know if I still have it, but Jeff Capel's brother put something on Instagram. I don't.
The siblings always are fun.
Yeah, I don't have it on my phone right now, but basically he talked about. He questioned, without saying his name, he questioned the character of Efton Reed as far as the money.
Right.
Everyone suspects.
And who's steering the ship there, and who's making that decision? Is it Efton Reed? Is it somebody else?
Yeah,
a parent.
Yeah, right. The bottom line though is that Will Wade is getting investigated by the FBI and the college basketball for his improper dealings with recruits. And it shouldn't come as a surprise that he's involved with something like this. A kid commits, and then all of a sudden the next day, you could make this. I don't have to say it because I'm not going to say it, but you could put what everyone thinks happened, and it wouldn't shock me that it did happen. And that's what has, Jeff Capel and so many guys over at Pitt pissed off. And they should be. They had the guy they wanted. They spent. And then the thing that people don't understand is they recruited this kid for 2 straight years. They got to know the family. They made a solid relationship with the family. They invested so much time when maybe.
And it all didn't matter, it turns out.
Exactly. And they, at the last minute, they thought all their hard work, it was paid off. Not paid off, but had.
Right.
That word. All their hard work was going to be rewarded. And, he ends up going to LSU with obviously, I think, shady circumstances. And, Jeff Capel's left hand holding the bag as far as no recruit. And now he has to start all over. So for the people, he recruited a 5-star kid well. It was just a bad situation. I think a shady situation by him and his family. Yeah,
and it appears that Jeff Capel was left holding the bag, and somebody else is holding another kind of bag, which is maybe why we're in this situation. But yeah, we can allude, but it's pretty clear, and that's just how things go these days. And it wouldn't, honestly, I don't even wish in any way ill will on the kid. Would certainly not. But Jeff Capel seemingly did his job, so. You hope success for him. You hope success at LSU and that they're on the up and up and that program can be fine. But that's a downer. It has to be a downer. It has to be a gut punch for Jeff Capel more than Champagnie leaving, even though maybe he thought he was going to come back if he was testing the waters. We saw the tweet from Jeff Capel, too, about Champagnie, that he always is a home at Pitt. He's not mad at the kid for getting his money, even if he's not that great of a player. This can get you a little upset, but this happens. I'm sure he's going to brush his shoulders off. You got to go on to the next one. There will be another recruit. That's why he has the resume he has. And I will say this, and this is what Alan said in the postgame shows we were doing at the end of the season. You can criticize Jeff Capel for the team losing 9 games in the final few months of the season to get themselves out of the postseason contention, including losses to teams that were below 500 that are worse than them. They should have won some of those games. Absolutely. Yeah. So that can be on Jeff Capel, but it's not fair to get on Jeff Capel for recruiting issues or developmental issues, because he's developed a kid in 2 years to get to the NBA, and he has recruited well and dealt with players leaving, but so has every other school. So you got to still give time, even though it's rare in college sports. And again, being upset about the team puttering away a season's one thing, but what's happened here recently with Efton Reed, I don't think is something legitimately to be upset at. I got to tell you guys, though, this is a story that you want to keep tabs on. Pittsburgh Sports Now, at PGH Sports Now over there on Twitter, and, of course, following Mike for more coverage. There's going to be more legs to this story. There's going to be more coming out from this story, I am sure. Pitt will move on, though, one way or another, and even continue to follow Justin Champagnie's careers. That's going to be interesting, and what happens with Champagnie, where he goes, when he's drafted, and how that works. That's going to be very, very interesting, because he has a lot of work to do that I'm sure he's getting on it right now. We are almost at hump day, so we're going to close up this Tuesday morning show. A lot of Pitt talk here on Mic'd Up on Pittsburgh Sports Live and, of course, Pittsburgh Sports Now. For my co-host, Mike Vukovcan, I'm Mike Asti. And for Martin Lawn Services, you can call Doug Martin at 412-849-5894. That'll do it for this show. Hit up all those outlets and all of them throughout the now family of networks for all our coverage throughout the day.